This is Max, Mighty Max as he was affectionately referred to by friends and relatives of the Bulman family. He was born just over a year ago into a loving family.
Well, Max was born on the 6th of October 2010, and he was perfect. He was just a beautiful baby. And we were overjoyed. We decided to have kids in our mid-30s, and we thought we knew a little bit about the world until we had a child, and then we got to learn what everybody learns, that you don't know anything. And we had him home for about 6 weeks, and things were going really well. He was eating, he was sleeping, we were adjusting.
Everything did seem perfect for Corey and Mimi Bulman. Their newborn son was doing great in his new home. But then, about 6 weeks in, the Bulmans noticed something strange about Max's stomach.
We just noticed that his belly was bulging out a little bit. We were giving him a bath, and actually Corey commented that, that doesn't seem about right. I'm like, well, I thought he maybe had gas or something. And the next day we just took him to our pediatrician, for which I thought was just a casual check-in to make sure everything was okay. And that's actually where our journey started. They did an x-ray of his abdomen, and they saw that his liver was actually 3 times the size of what it was supposed to be.
It was about 11 o'clock that morning. I got an emergency message saying that your wife called and she's heading to Children's Hospital in Minneapolis. And that was the last time we went home in a normal circumstance, and that was 17th of November 2010.
Doctors did a CT scan and found out that Max had neuroblastoma. Corey and Mimi's lives changed drastically in the blink of an eye.
It was a cancer that I never even had heard before, much less hearing that children get cancer. And I found out very quickly that neuroblastoma is actually something that typically impacts children under the age of 5. It's a nerve cancer, and it's the most common solid cancer that children get. And from that CT scan, they were able to conclusively say that he had it. And so the next couple of days, we had to rush him into surgery to do a biopsy. And by that time, he was actually struggling with his breathing. His liver was so big that it was actually crowding his lungs.
Our lives stopped. The day I came here, I left work and thought I'd have to set up, I'm a teacher, and I thought I would have to set up plans for a substitute for the next day, and then it was 2 days, and then it was 3 days. And I remember when we were first trying to get our heads around what was happening, we kept wanting, well, like everyone, we wanted discernible time frames. Are we going to go home by Thanksgiving? Are we going to go home by Christmas? And it was interesting how quickly that all fell away.
After a couple weeks of constant monitoring of Max's condition and several sleepless nights, the Bulmans learned of the newly opened Ronald McDonald House inside Children's Hospital, right downstairs from the intensive care unit that Max was in.
We stayed at the PICU basically 24 hours a day for the next couple of weeks. And then, thank goodness, we had just heard about the Ronald McDonald House here at Children's Hospital had only opened up a few weeks prior. So the nurse on our floor told us about it. So we actually had a chance to come down here and take a look at it.
The house here at Children's services a number of families that live in the Twin Cities, and we live 7 miles from this hospital, but it might as well have been 1,000 miles. Because for the better part of 4 months, this was our home. We slept here, we ate here, we never left here. And I think that's why this room and the bedrooms they have here are so important to families that are in our circumstance, because it becomes your life.
It's actually at Christmas time here at the Ronald McDonald House.
Okay. When Frank and I met the Bulmans at the house inside the hospital, you could tell it was a bittersweet return for them. Corey and Mimi went through a lot here, but they couldn't say enough good things about what staying here meant to them during the most difficult time of their lives.
Having a place like this, just even coming down the stairs for 5 minutes, just helped us tremendously. And also, it was a great place to even talk a little bit with the other parents at the hospital who, while the situations were different, they were very similar in some aspects. The fact that, you know, they had a child here that was ill and they were trying to be supportive and be there for their child too.
For the two of us, our number one commitment was to be present for our son. And the Ronald McDonald House allowed us time to catch up and recuperate so we could do it to the best of our ability. And I think that's what this organization does. It's so important for families. It allows you a sense of normalcy because so much of your life is spent in an abnormal situation.
The Bulmans were here at the Ronald McDonald House inside Children's Hospital for more than 4 months and right over the holiday season in 2010.
We basically celebrated every holiday that you could think of during that time because we came in to Children's on November 17th. So for Thanksgiving, my family brought, they did this huge Thanksgiving meal, and we actually had it down in the cafeteria. There were over 30 people, both on Corey and my side, that did that.
But I think the defining moment, memory for me, is when we had our Christmas here. And it was late, and the room is always open, but it just happened that we were the only family that was in here. And Mimi's Chinese, and we had a huge Chinese meal brought in, and it was prepared by her family, and we just had a really great time. It was nice seeing life. It was nice seeing our nieces and nephews run around. It was nice to give and get presents from people, and it made us forget that we were in a major children's hospital.
Max's battle with cancer ended March 2nd, 2011, about 4.5 months after the Bulmans first came to Minneapolis Children's Hospital.
And the cancer entered his adrenal glands, and then it spread and metastasized through his liver. And it proved to be too entrenched. All forms of treatment ended up proving to not be viable. We did numerous rounds of chemotherapy, we did radiation, and the way that it was explained to us and the way that we've come to see it is it never got any worse, but it never got any better. And it's a tricky illness. It's a terrible thing watching your child suffer.
Even though Corey is a teacher, he told me how much he learned from his son, Mighty Max, and from this whole experience.
I think from my son, I learned about perseverance. I learned about strength. I learned about adversity. I think what I learned from my time at the Ronald McDonald House were those same lessons. I learned about compassion. I learned about grace. I learned about what it really means to have a hand offered to you in a time of need and how important that is.
We both had actually heard about the Ronald McDonald House before and all the great things that it does, but until you're actually on the receiving end of all this generosity, and you are just so grateful that services like this do exist. And really it's changed, I know, our view of the importance of an organization like Ronald McDonald House.
One of the reasons that we don't just hold on to the negatives of the situation is because of the help and support we received here. That we really do believe that the world is a fundamentally good place and a fundamentally terrible thing happened to us. But the world is a good place, and people constantly amazed us when we went through this experience. Our friends, our family, the hospital staff, the Ronald McDonald staff. We learned a lot about humanity going through this experience.